Yeah, so like you said, we are the sound construction team. My name is Connor Tagus.
I'm Allie Erson. So we have a video demo of the product that we were given to start out with. This product actually started several years ago, and it was a sophomore group project. They were on it for about 5 weeks and came up with this prototype. So I played Mary Had a Little Lamb for you guys, very professional recording quality, just so you can kind of see how it works. But there's tubes in the front, and that's where you hit. And then the longer tubes change the pitch of the note. There's only 4 tubes in there right now because Mary Had a Little Lamb only has 4 notes, but there are 8 tubes for it. So, so that is it. That's how it sounds now. We're gonna work a lot on sound quality so you can hear the pitches a bit better. It's also programmed to play 2 songs right now, and that's Mary Had a Little Lamb and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. The electronics haven't been touched for a few years, so they don't work right now. Otherwise, I would have demonstrated that too. But essentially, there's a light system where it'll light up the tube that you're supposed to hit, and then you hit it, and it'll go to the next tube. So kids can pretty much press the button and then play whichever song they want to play. So yeah, this is our starting point. We made a few different design decisions based on what Connor's going to talk about next, but our final product is going to look a lot different. The functionality will be similar.
Yeah. So one of the things that came with this was the opportunity to join the I-Core training. And if you don't know what I-Core training is, it's kind of small business startup / product development training. And so what it is we're in Zoom calls for 5 weeks every Thursday morning, 9 to noon. It's a great time. And we sat there and we listened to like market professionals like demonstrate what people are looking for in the market, how to ask questions, how to interview people. And so one of the goals that we had to do for I-Core is to interview 20 people in the real world in our market. And so we went out and we interviewed 20 different people, as you can see with these little emojis here. We met 11 people in person, called 4 people, and we zoomed the 7. And the goal from interviewing all the people was just to understand where there was a problem in the market and understand where we could put our product out there and it would fit best. And to do that, we had to create different hypotheses for the different areas and different groups of market and talk about those a little bit as well.
So we had 4 main target markets that we wanted to talk to. One of the main ones is Kodo Kids. They are a toy company that produces educational tools for classrooms, museums, for consumers. And so we talked to Diane, and she's an educator there and an employee. And then Chris is the founder and CEO. So our hypothesis for Kodo Kids was that selling them our product would end up increasing their revenue by 10%. And we sort of learned this in the 3-hour-long lectures that Connor was talking about, but the questions that we asked weren't supposed to be about our product at all. We didn't even mention what we're working on. The sorts of questions we asked were stuff like, are there any gaps in your market that you're looking to fill? We asked how new products get introduced to their company and sort of the process that goes through. And then we asked them what their biggest sellers are and why they think that is, to sort of see if our product could fit with that. And then after the I-Core program was completely done, we reached back out to Kodo Kids. They helped the original group work on the products like 4 or 5 years ago. And we reminded them of what the product is, and they remembered it, and they are interested in working with us. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like as of right now, but we're going to talk to Chris and see what sort of agreement we can work out with them. So then another customer segment we interviewed were school classrooms, and our hypothesis for them was that we would increase their learning outcomes by combining physics and music. And the physics aspect of this is as the tubes get longer, the pitch of the note gets lower. So it's sort of something that kids subconsciously come to know as they play with the instrument. And they don't feel like they're learning, if that makes sense. It just feels like they're having fun. We interviewed Larry, who's a physics professor here, and he also works with educating K through 12 physics teachers on how to teach physics concepts in their classrooms. And then we talked to Carrie, who is a kindergarten teacher, and Carla, who is a K through 5 music teacher in Sioux Falls. And the sorts of questions we asked them were, how do students learn best in music classrooms? What are their favorite things to do? In physics classrooms, are labs more beneficial, or lectures, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and the other two hypotheses we tested were with Children's Museum here in Brookings and with just parents at the consumer market. And so we went to talk to the Children's Museum and we met with Mike, he's the operations director at the Children's Museum here in Brookings. And we also met with Lauren, who's an educator here in Brookings as well. And we went to them just kind of asking them questions about what exhibits they've seen both here in Brookings and nationwide at other Children's Museums. And then we asked them physics specific exhibits, math specific exhibits, and then just like art and music exhibits and what they've seen kind of in the areas, both in Brookings and nationwide. And what they're kind of saying is that most of the exhibits are not strictly math or science and physics, because that won't bring an audience in, that won't bring people, that doesn't entice people to come use the exhibit. They said the key thing is you have to have something that draws people in, and they want to do that, and then you can teach them the math and science and physics behind it. And so that really reinforced kind of our product, because our product is going to bring you in with music concepts, and it'll just be fun to use. And then we'll be able to teach them the math and science that's going on behind it as well. And then with the consumer market, we interviewed kindergarten parents. Carrie, like we said earlier, also a kindergarten teacher in the Fishback Center, and she's a parent for a kindergartner as well. So she was very valuable to interview. She gave us both insight from the teacher's perspective and the parent perspective. And then we also interviewed Ashley and Lexi, who were both parents of kindergartners at Fishback Center. And we asked parents kind of questions about toys they've purchased for their kids, or educational toys and just toys in general. And we even got into details about how much they would pay for stuff like this, and if they're willing to pay double for stuff. And it kind of gave us a good idea of what the market would be like for educational toys for consumer level, and just whether or not they think something like this would be beneficial for them.
So as another part of iCore, we had to make an ecosystem model. This shows pretty much the start of our product to the end of it. So we get materials from suppliers. We right now are planning to go through Kodo Kids, and Kodo Kids sells to all other free markets that we interview. But it also has the potential to non-Kodo Kids too, so it can either go through them or directly to the different consumer markets. So that's sort of what this is showing.
And then the final goal, or the final thing that you're supposed to come up with as a part of the iCore training is just finding your target market, your target customer. And after several hours of consideration with our advisors, we decided that, like I said, Kodo Kids is a very good opportunity for us because they're both a manufacturer, it says here. So we can give them our idea and our design, and they can take it, if they want to, they can run with it, manufacture it, and then they can distribute it to both classrooms or the consumer level, whatever they feel like is best. So we think something along those lines, if it's not Kodo Kids specifically, we hope to find a different manufacturing company that is willing to do something like that. But if we can't find something like that, then we're just thinking K-3 education Constructors, just the schools themselves, we can work directly with them. And then manufacturing wise, after we graduate, it's kind of up in the air right now. We don't know if it starts an actual business or if we'll just have that one model and that be that.
So our final statement, or sort of hypothesis that we had to make for iCore, is that we're developing a children's instrument in order to help early childhood educators combine music and physics to improve their learning outcomes in their classrooms. And this concludes sort of our iCore section of the presentation. I know it was a long part of it, but we've spent 5 weeks on this, so the bulk of our project has just been iCore training.
And then we're kind of going to circle back around to the beginning of the product motivation. And so these bullet points are all the same as above, but now after completing the iCore training, we kind of look at them in a little bit of a different perspective. And so, like I said, we're going to start working with creating an engaging and exciting world of music education, and then illustrate the impact of physics concepts on students.
So our scope of the project, we want there to be 16 playable notes. There's only going to be 8 tubes, but we want them to be able to change out, so you can do chromatic notes or minor keys instead of just major. We also want the note frequencies to be accurate, and like you heard in the video, it's sort of hard to hear them, so we are gonna make sure the sound quality is a lot better. We also want to program 2 songs, which is what's in the model now. And one of our stretch goals is to have more than one model, so if we're selling to a museum, it might look a little bit different than if we're selling to a classroom. So we for sure want to make a classroom model, but if we have the time to do so, we might think about making other models too. We need to have a functional prototype for the class, and it also needs to be understandable, so that kindergarteners and 3rd graders can all use the instrument without it being too confusing for them. So some of the main things we want to maximize are sound quality, like I said, the understanding, as well as just customizability and interactivity. We want kids to have fun taking it apart, putting it back together again. We want them to be able to play songs that they like to play. And the 2 songs program is a minimum. We're hoping to do more than that.
And so taking it way back to the beginning of the semester when we came up with our state-of-the-art review, basically the state-of-the-art review is looking at other products in the market, just doing research to learn as much as you can about what you're doing. And so we found Blue Man Group. Blue Man Group is a pretty popular band, but they perform and they use this kind of instrument. It's very similar to ours. And so both of these things, we're going to take lots of ideas from lots of concepts, but they don't really have an educational piece involved with it. And one of the things that we're going to focus on a lot is just that education piece behind the actual product. And so we'll take lots of inspiration from both of these things and we'll use it in our product. And our products will probably look very similar to this, but we're going to hope to teach the math and science and physics behind and to teach the kids what's actually going on.
So our original model is more of a rectangular shape, so that's an option for the housing. But we also thought of sort of a curved design that sort of curves around the person that's using it. And we also came up with sort of a step design where the tops of all the tubes would be the same height and kids could climb up onto it in order to change the tubes. After the decision matrix we made for it, the curved housing design won. For our critical design review, we're gonna decide what we want to do for like storage of all of the resonator pipes when they're not being used. So that could be either drawers, it could be cabinets, it could be external shelving. We don't know yet. So this model, it kind of just shows the inside of it, but we'll come up with that for our critical design review.
Another one of the things that we really focused on was the resonator design. And so we kind of came up with 3 ideas. The first one is just the interchangeable tubes. So the old prototype, it just has different sections. Some of them are 3 feet long, some of them are 2 feet long, and that's what changed the notes. Basically, you take it out and put it in a different hole. That's how you change the pitch. But something that we learned through I-Core was that kids play with Legos and they love playing with Legos and stuff like that. And so we were like, how can we incorporate maybe a Lego type of design into this? And so we came up with an idea of making like the length is undecided, so we're going to work on that. But let's say hypothetically a foot-long section. Then you could stack 4-foot-long sections to make that 4 foot, and then you could put it into the device and it would make that noise. And so that's kind of an idea that we're running with right now. Another idea we thought of was like a sliding or a telescopic method. Something we also learned in the interviews that kids love to play with like trombones and stuff like that. That's a lot of favorite instruments. And so incorporating a sliding mechanism was something that we thought of. But we think that there's a lot of unknowns with that, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that one, and so kind of leaning away from that. So right now, our current design, we're going to go with Lego tubing, and the design will change from this a little bit, depending on what we come up with first. Yeah.
So our budget, we're planning on spending about $250 on just the wood and the nails. We already have some plywood from the last time they worked on the project. And then our electronics we're estimating will be about $250, and that'll include a microphone to pick up the audio from when the kid hits a tube, and then the lights that light up each of the tubes, as well as just the Arduino. And then the pipes we're hoping will be about $200. The mallet material, right now they just sort of have foam paddles. And like you heard earlier, it doesn't produce the best sound, so we're gonna spend some more money on trying to create better paddles. We want wheels on it because we want it to be portable. If it's in a classroom, it's not just gonna sit in the middle of the classroom all day, every day. They need to be able to move it into storage. And then the head coverings, we didn't really talk about this a whole lot, but adding head coverings to the back of the pipes will greatly increase the tone quality. I talked to Dr. Ragsdale, who's the percussion professor here, and he sort of demonstrated on his marimba what it would sound like with and without a head covering. And it sounds a lot better with one. It's much clearer tone. And then with that, it would create a closed open tube instead of an open tube, which would allow us to make the pipes a bit smaller. So kids aren't needing to deal with like a 10-foot long pipe just to get a lower pitch tone. And then research and extra components we estimated is about 200. So our original budget, I think, was $1650, and now it's down to $250.
And then here's kind of our Gantt chart. So as you can see, the first 5 weeks, the majority of the semester was just strictly for I-Core. Now we're trying to cram in as much as we can at the end of the semester to be caught up back for next semester. So our PDR we did last night, and it went really well. We moved forward with the science. We're hoping to get our CDR in either at the very end of this semester, or it's most likely going to be the first couple of weeks of next semester. And then first semester testing is probably going to be second semester testing for us. And then a lot of other things go in next semester as well. That, is there any questions or comments?
How large is the new apparatus that you designed on yourself?
So right now I have it where the inner diameter is like 2.5 feet, but that's still a work in progress. I feel like it would be easier for us to go talk to Kay at the Children's Center and see if we can go in a classroom and just see what children can easily reach and then sort of model it based on that.
How have you considered safety in your design?
So the corners are gonna have to be not sharp. We looked into the ASME requirements earlier in this, but since we're hopefully working with Kodo Kids, we're sort of gonna take a lot of direction from them and see how they incorporate safety. We still need to set up a meeting with Chris so that we can talk about like how we're going to move forward with the product, because they use pretty much the same materials for all of their products, so we would have to go with their materials if we're making it for them. But yeah, we're probably going to ask them sort of what they do for safety and go based off of that.
I'm gonna add on to that as well. But something that the old product doesn't have is they don't have any head coverings for their pipes. And so if you go look at the senior design lab now, there's dead bugs in PVC pipes right now. And so something that we're looking into is, first off, we're gonna put head covers to the back of the pipe just for sound quality itself. And then we're looking at somewhat of a grade system in the front of it, so you can't like shove your arm down the pipe, or you can't drop the ball or something like that. This is a grade system thing. It's be a couple inches below the surface. When you're hitting it, it doesn't affect the sound at all, but it still keeps things from falling down into the actual pipes.
Have any kids gotten their arms stuck around the corner?
I believe Kate told us that last year they did have kids shoving their arms in the pipes. Not last year, but whatever it was.
I'm pretty sure they had to grease up that kid's arm to get it out. It sounded kind of fun.
Yeah.
You had mentioned you'd increase Kodo Kids revenue by 10%. Is that their overall revenue as a company?
So I think it's looking forward to there. When we're doing I-Core, they told us to come up with hypotheses, like they just want numerical values in it. They just have to be tested. They'd be and so 10% is kind of just like guess we threw in to have a numeric value in the hypothesis. That is something that we'll have to figure out. If we actually want to calculate the correct number, we can do that.
What's their overall revenue right now? Do you know that?
You can ask Chris for the video.
Yeah.
Did any of you work on any projects for Kodo Kids? I think we've spent long enough that probably all of you were too young for that. Do you have any idea how much his products cost?
A lot.
A lot.
They have,
Yeah, good. Yeah, how much do you think something similar to what you just showed up there would cost?
I would say it'd be close to $3,000.
You're probably
Because
right.
they have, if you go to the Fishback Center, they have it's called the Magnet Wall, and it's basically like 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of metal, and it's surrounded by 2x4s, and they have little PVC pipes that like stick to it. And that costs like $2,500.
It's just a magnet.
Yeah, it's a sheet of metal, it's 2x4s, and it's $2,500. And that, fun fact, is their top selling item, so.
Yeah.
We're all in the wrong business.
So obviously your goal is to like have kids learn themselves, but were you planning on having any way to show them like 5 sections makes a bigger?
Yeah, we're thinking of kind of a meter stick that'll show you like you build the Legos to this height, it's an A. But we also wanna include sheet music, so if music teachers also want them to read sheet music while they're doing it, they can do that. We would like to, like potentially if it's going into a museum exhibit, maybe make something that demonstrates more of the physics behind it and why the pitch is lowering as it's lengthening, but Kodo Kids sells a lot of things in kits. So it can sort of be like, this is the base product, and if you pay this much extra, then you can get this informational section added, something like that.
Yeah, it's something we picked up from interviews again, when we interviewed people at the museum, they told us how kids learn best. Because obviously the point of the museum is for kids to come in and learn something that's toys. And so one of the questions we asked them was like, what is the best form for kids to learn? Was it like a video, is it just having something that you read? And they said kind of a little all of it, like videos are good, but if one video, just jam all the buttons and all the videos put at the same time, you won't get anything out of that. And then if you just have 3 pages worth of notes from the free draft, you're not gonna do that. So maybe like a paragraph or something, and a video or something, just kind of incorporate different learning techniques.
All right, any other questions for this team? Hey, good job.